Sydney Colson, you got to remember, before Caitlin Clark was drafted, Sydney Colson was somebody who was kind of hating on her on Twitter while Caitlin Clark was at Iowa. All this stuff too. She kind of was like, hey, I just gotta keep it real. I gotta be honest. I remember it all. I was there from day one. I remember it all. Sydney Colson was on Twitter hating. I gotta keep it real. Gotta keep it real. It is what it is. Sydney Colson also was a teammate of A'ja Wilson with the Las Vegas Aces during Caitlin Clark's rookie season when she came in with all of this hype and just this big level of stardom. And a lot of the WNBA players were jealous. They were hating. They were very rebellious toward all of the following and the fans that she brought on. They pretty much tried to shun an entire new fan base of people.
She walked away from everything. From a championship dynasty, from comfort, from her best friend. Sydney Colson didn't just leave the Las Vegas Aces. She defied the system that tried to control the narrative. Because when the WNBA whispered that no veteran wanted to play with Caitlin Clark, Colson did the unthinkable. She joined her. And now, the truth behind that decision is exposing a power struggle the league never wanted fans to see. No one saw it coming. Reporters called it insane, teammates called it confusing, and the internet called it betrayal. Why would a two-time champion, loved in Vegas, suddenly walk into a rebuild? Because sometimes loyalty to a cause is bigger than loyalty to a jersey. Sydney Colson wasn't running away from success. She was running toward her purpose, even if it meant walking straight into chaos. The phone rang. On the line, Fever GM Amber Cox and coach Stephanie White. They didn't promise glamour, they promised grit. They said, we're building something different here, something honest. But they weren't selling minutes or money.
What has it been like, getting to know her humor, and seeing firsthand all that's coming her way?
It was cool being on a team with her, getting to see her in another light. Was really cool. I think over the course of her career, I think we haven't had many instances where we've seen like Caitlin, Angel, Paige, like players come in with the sort of notoriety that they had, the sort of money that they're making.
Yeah, see, that was the thing, you guys. It wasn't just the notoriety. It was one thing, Caitlin Clark coming in, and a lot of them were just pure, flat out jealous of the notoriety and the fame, and all of us knowing she was the GOAT before she even got there.
They were selling belief, and Sydney felt it. She later said, I just knew God was placing me where I needed to be. It wasn't a contract, it was a calling. Most athletes chase security. Sydney Colson chased discomfort. She admitted she felt God pushing her into an unknown space, a place that would test her, stretch her, and maybe even break her. But she knew growth doesn't happen in safe zones. And that's why she chose Indiana, the franchise everyone mocked, the one with the rookie the league didn't know how to handle. Because sometimes you have to step into the storm to change the weather. From day one, Caitlin Clark was a lightning rod. Fans worshipped her, players whispered. The league was split between those who saw her as salvation and those who saw her as a spotlight stealer. Behind the scenes, certain veterans made it clear, she hasn't earned it yet. That's the environment Colson walked.
See this girl coming from Iowa, everybody's talking about how great she is, yada, yada, yada. She changed the game. She's a female Steph Curry. She gonna change women's basketball like Michael Jordan. Not only did that piss them off, not only did that have them hot, livid, she coming in with $28 million Nike deals. They ain't even seen her play against us yet. She got all these State Farm commercials. She getting all these millions, speaking engagements and all of this stuff. She hasn't even played yet. That played a large part into a lot of the jealousy that was going on. That you just got to be real about that.
Provide. Sydney Colson wasn't just any free agent. She was A'ja Wilson's best friend, her sister in arms. The comic relief, the glue that held the Aces locker room together. Leaving Vegas wasn't just business, it was breaking the inner circle. The optics said she abandoned the champions. But in truth, she was walking away from politics that didn't align with her purpose. For months, pundits pushed a story. No veteran wants to play with Caitlin. They said her fame made teammates resent her, that her popularity created division before she'd even played a game. That was the plan. Isolate her, humble her, make her fit the mold. And then Sydney Colson showed up and blew that narrative to dust. She laughed with Clark, hyped her, defended her, and proved that veteran leadership and rookie stardom can coexist. At her first Fever practice, Colson wasn't distant, she was dancing. She cracked jokes, lightened the mood, and made Clark feel human again. Reporters expecting tension found chemistry instead. Caitlin Clark said later it was cool seeing her in another light. And that one line told the story. This wasn't mentorship by hierarchy. It was sisterhood by design. When Clark got injured, the cameras focused on her leg. Colson focused on her heart. She pulled her aside and said, "You can't play right now."
Yeah, Caitlin was doing everything she could to come back. She was literally doing everything she could. I personally believe the Indiana Fever would not allow her to return for whatever reason. I think it was BS how they dragged it along. Like, Sydney Colson just said that Caitlin Clark thought she would be back. She thought she would be able to make a return. I think the Indiana Fever just held her out, to be honest with you. And I think it was whack because it's like y'all knew y'all wanted to hold her out. Y'all could have told us a month before. Like, y'all literally dragged this on until it was 3 days left in the season. That was whack to me. That was super whack.
But you can still lead. She reminded her that leadership doesn't vanish when the scoreboard does. Even from the sidelines, Clark could still shape the team's energy. That guidance became the quiet backbone of Indiana's season. For any rookie, injury hurts. For a global icon, it's identity shattering. Colson saw the weight on Clark, the pressure of being the face of women's sports. She reminded her that mental toughness isn't built in interviews. It's built when no one's watching. Together, they turned recovery into rebirth. And Clark started to find joy again in the middle of chaos. Indiana could have folded, losing their star, their rhythm, their hope. But they didn't. Because Colson injected something no stat sheet measures, joy. She used laughter like therapy, cracking jokes in the darkest moments. When the team started losing, she doubled down on humor. Because when you keep spirits high, beliefs survive. That's what leadership really looks like, not speeches, but spirit. Then it happened. The Fever pulled off a late season rally, gritty, emotional, unexpected. It wasn't about talent, it was about connection. Even injured players showed up to practices, lending voices, encouragement, presence. The locker room was alive.
That's the environment Colson was hired to build.
And she did it so well that it outlived her own playing time. Then karma flipped the script. Colson tore her ACL. The leader became the one needing support. But what happened next proved her impact. Her teammates rallied around her. They joked with her through rehab, checked in daily, and carried her optimism forward. The culture she built had finally come full circle. Fans who once mocked the move now called it prophetic. Analysts began saying the Fever's locker room had championship DNA. And for the first time, the narrative changed. Caitlin Clark wasn't dividing veterans and rookies anymore. She was uniting them.
That's what Sydney Colson had seen all along.
Not a marketing gimmick, not a privilege debate. A generational spark that could lift everyone. When asked why she really left Vegas, Colson said, "I could just feel God pushing me where I needed to be." That one quote silenced every critic. Because this wasn't about optics, it was obedience. She trusted a higher voice over the loudest voices online. And that faith paid off in ways that even she didn't expect. The same year she joined Indiana, Colson's popularity exploded. Commercials, podcasts, brand deals. From TJ Maxx to Ally, Kia to DirecTV, everyone wanted her authenticity. She filmed spots with Diana Taurasi and Brianna Stewart, bringing humor to a league often too serious for its own good. The irony, she became one of the WNBA's biggest faces after leaving the team that was supposed to define it. Her personality turned into a platform. The Sid and TP show became viral gold, proof that fans crave realness more than perfection. She joked about herself, clowned on her friends, and kept it 100% genuine. That's why brands lined up, not because she was the loudest, but because she was the realest. Colson said, "I'm me everywhere I go." That's her entire brand. In a league fighting for identity, she gave it humor, humility, and heart. She made it okay to laugh again, Okay, to talk faith without apology. Okay, to show emotion in a sport that often hides it. That authenticity became contagious inside the Fever locker room. Critics call it the Clark effect. But for Colson, it's something deeper. Caitlyn didn't just raise TV ratings, she raised expectations. She brought eyes, money, and accountability. Every teammate beside her got more attention, more opportunities, more leverage. Sydney Colson saw that and understood the game within the game. As standing next to greatness multiplies your own platform. The veterans who once dismissed Clark as hype now face a new reality. The fans have spoken. They want the Fever, they want the story. And the players who embrace that story are winning off the court too. Colson's rise proved that adapting isn't selling out, it's survival. The old guard clung to hierarchy. The new era thrives on collaboration. And the results speak for themselves. Their model blends youthful energy with veteran faith. Colson's leadership gave structure, Clark's star power gave scale. Together, they've built a franchise that feels bigger than basketball. A movement centered on joy, faith, and unity. Other teams will copy it. Because what Indiana's doing isn't just working, it's leading. Colson's story isn't about betrayal or rivalry. It's about purpose. She taught the league that faith and authenticity still matter, that laughter can be leadership, and that sometimes walking away from a crown is the only way to find your voice. Her journey is proof that you can't measure legacy in rings alone. You measure in the hearts you change along the way. Sydney Colson didn't just reject the WNBA's anti-Clark plan, she exposed it. She showed that unity sells more than division, that mentorship is louder than envy, and that when women back women, the entire game wins. Her faith turned into fire and her courage lit up an entire franchise. The old guard built walls, Colson built bridges. She left a dynasty and built a destiny. She bet on faith, not fear. She stood beside the most scrutinized rookie in sports and proved that real leadership doesn't whisper, it moves. Sydney Colson didn't just reject the plan. She rewrote the playbook. The Fever are no longer rebuilding, they're rewriting. So now the question is for you, do you stand with Sydney and Caitlyn or with the system that tried to silence them? Sydney Colson's decision didn't just change her life, it changed how veterans view purpose. Players who once chased minutes and medals are now chasing meaning. They've watched Colson thrive in a so-called rebuild, watched her faith turn into influence, watched her authenticity open doors they didn't even know existed. She proved that when you choose impact over image, the universe repays you tenfold. Now front offices are quietly reevaluating what leadership really looks like. Not loud, not perfect, but rooted. And every young player watching her story unfold is learning that your greatest win doesn't come with a trophy. It comes when you finally realize who you're meant to be. In a few short months, Colson went from background personality to blueprint. Her move to Indiana became the moment veterans realized the future isn't something to fear, it's something to join. Caitlyn Clark brought the spotlight, but Sydney Colson showed how to use it. She taught that laughter can carry more weight than a post-game speech, that vulnerability is a form of power, and that unity sells better than conflict ever will. 10 years from now, when analysts look back on how women's basketball exploded into the mainstream, they won't just mention Clark's logo threes. They'll mention the veteran who made the locker room safe enough for a revolution to grow. That's Sydney's legacy, invisible, unselfish, unshakable. The Fever story isn't a Cinderella run, it's a resurrection. And Sydney Colson's fingerprints are all over it. From the jokes in practice, to the faith in pressers, to the way she stood beside a rookie under pressure and said, "You're not alone." That's what changed everything. Because once a team believes it's chosen for a purpose, not just a paycheck, it plays with heart no dynasty can imitate. And as the 2026 season looms, the question hanging over the league isn't who will win next. It's who's brave enough to follow her lead. So keep watching, because the story of Sydney Colson and Caitlyn Clark isn't over. It's evolving, it's spreading, and it's rewriting the DNA of an entire league. And when the next chapter drops, you'll want to be here to see it first. Drop your thoughts below. If you believe in this new era of women's basketball, in faith, unity, and courage, hit that like, smash subscribe, and turn on notification. Because this story isn't ending. It's just getting started.